Hello, Superboy Beyond fans. Welcome back. We're doing the next part of our commentaries on the Season 2 openers. This time we're doing part 2, which is Lex Luthor, Sentenced to Death. So that's Season 2, Episode 2. For those of you who have already been with us and have done commentaries with us before, you know the drill. For those of you just joining us, you're not going to see any bits of the episode in our episode. There will be a very heavily filtered version right up at the top there, and it's just there just so you can keep in track, because we all know what happens. The doorbell rings, the phone rings, you got to run to the bathroom, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, in order to watch this, you need to hit play first on a YouTube video and then hit play on your DVD or your digital copy or whatever.
Yeah.
If somebody rings the phone, you need to stop. You need to pause both those things and then get them back in sync again. It's such a pain in the ass to do. So, yeah, we just include like a heavily filtered version there purely so you can keep in time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play. So get your DVD copy or your online version, wherever you get your streaming it from. Get that ready, and then I'll count you in with a 3, 2, 1. So 3, 2, 1, play.
And obviously, this was the first season of Superboy where they open with a two-parter. I don't know why they didn't do that with season 1. I guess it's harder when you have a pilot episode, unless the pilot is a two-part, or at least, at the very least, a feature-length episode or something.
Yes.
I know that Lois and Clark, I think technically the first two episodes are listed as the pilot, but whenever I've ever seen it, it's been edited together as one long TV movie. So,
well, I remember when it first aired, it was aired as a TV movie pilot, and it was about an hour.
It's the best way to watch it.
Minutes. Yeah,
and as far as Superman movies go, it's a pretty good one. It's a bit light on the Superman action, but as far as if you were just wanted to make a movie telling the origin story, or at least how he went from being Clark to Superman, it's a pretty solid story. I still think that the pilot for Lois and Clark is a very solid movie.
Yes. When they air it as a two-parter,
especially now it's been remastered.
When they air it as a two-parter, though.
Yeah, I can't imagine that working quite as well.
No, actually it does, because they add in scenes that were cut from the original movie. Like there's a whole sequence with the original actor. There's sequences with the original actor who was playing Inspector Henderson. And the original actor playing Inspector Henderson was a black guy. And then he was later replaced with Richard Belzer.
Yeah, the guy from, what is it, Law and Order?
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't he a stand-up comedian at one point as well?
Yes, he was.
Right about that? I don't think I've ever seen any of his stand-up, but I think I've seen bits and pieces. But I like that guy. I always thought he looks a little bit like Leonard Nimoy, but only old Leonard Nimoy. He looks nothing like him young.
Yeah, and he also was in The Flash as the TV news anchor Joe Klein.
Huh. I didn't know that. I've only seen bits and pieces from the John Wesley Shipp version of The Flash. At some point, I do need to actually sit down and watch it all. I'll have to buy it on DVD or something at some point.
Well worth the well worth it.
I'm sure. Has it got bonus features, stuff like
that? It does not, unfortunately. And two of the episodes are out of order. But that they put it in pretty much as air date order and not actual story order, because there's two episodes.
Are there any are there actually continuity issues with that? Do they reference anything that's
Yeah, there's something that's referenced in one episode in the second episode that didn't happen until that happened in what was supposed to be the previous episode, but it didn't get aired till the next week.
Fair enough.
So you'll be watching it
does
for
annoy
the
me
first
when
time and
stuff
not
like
understand
that
what the heck's going on.
Yeah, there's an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch that does that, where there's an episode where Hilda sends Daniel Boone, who has been sent through time, back to his own time. But the episode where she sends him home aired before the episode where he arrives.
Yeah.
So it's like literally, you see the episode, he gets sent home. Goodbye, I'm going to miss you, Daniel Boone. And then 2 episodes later, hello, who are you? Are you Davy Crockett? No, I'm Daniel Boone. It's like, yeah, it doesn't work at all. I don't know why they did that. It's even on my DVD, the episodes play out of order. If anybody watching just happens to have been involved with that show in some way, maybe let us know what the hell that was all about. Because there was no reason why they had to reorder that, as far as I can see.
Yeah, I know in the case of The Flash, it was because of the Gulf War. Because, you know, a lot of episodes got interrupted and then they had to air it, you know, weeks later, you know, like 2 episodes a week just to get us caught up.
It's always annoying when stuff like that happens. There was an episode of Buffy that's a really good episode as well that they cancelled because there was a school shooting and the episode involved a guy with a sniper rifle who was going to kill students. But the episode, I think, is a really good episode that deals with the subject matter with a lot of sensitivity. And yeah, I think it's a shame.
Yeah. You know, and I mentioned this in the last time we did this, you know, Superboy laying in the bed in his costume is pretty ridiculous.
It is, but I mean, at the same time, what else can he do? I mean, I guess they could put him in a robe or pajamas or something, but I wonder if removing the costume would break the illusion for some people. Like if Lana came to visit Superboy in the hospital bed, would removing the costume be enough of a change that she'd recognize him as Clark? I don't know if I'd want to risk it. It's not the kind of question I'd want answered. I'm not sure I would have been ready for Lana to find out Clark's secret this early.
Yeah. And this is our introduction to the great Tracy Roberts as Darla.
Yeah, like part 1 introduced a load of elements that show how season 2 is going to be an improvement over season 1. And I like the fact that episode 2 immediately introduces the new sidekick. And they show off the potential, you know, or he's already got Darla in disguise as a nurse. You know, yeah, it's great. Even in the comic books, he ended up putting her in disguises.
And this sequence here is why he doesn't recognize her in the next episode that she appears in when she's playing the nun.
I mean, they look nothing alike. She doesn't look like herself in the next episode. The glasses, the change of haircut, the nurse's uniform, it does distract.
The darkness of the room.
The darkness of the room certainly
helps. He doesn't have his powers up to, you know, full intensity like he did.
Plus, he wouldn't have been expecting it, you know. Lex has one sidekick up to this point. You wouldn't expect him to have gotten another one so soon. I wouldn't have done anyway. I mean, maybe I would expect it now, considering the nurse is the one that just started the video. But if you weren't paying that much attention when she first walked into the room, trying to recall those details isn't going to be easy. Even if he did have, you know, the super memory power that Silver Age Superman had. Which I don't think either of us ever said that we think he'd had in this show. Like he's not stupid, the character in this iteration, but he's definitely not the super genius that he is in the Silver Age. Silver Age Superman would definitely be able to recall her face.
Yeah.
Although maybe not if he didn't have his powers at the time. Maybe that would make his brain temporarily only as powerful as a human. So I don't know how that works, actually. If anybody, out there has read a Superman comic where he loses his powers, does his intelligence drop with it? Because technically his super brain is a power.
Yeah. I think the
Mike
intelligence
Carlin,
level would stay the same. It's just his ability to process the information quickly would go away.
That's a good way to look at it. Mike Carlin, I mean, you were the editor on Superman, all the Superman family titles for a while. If anybody knows the answer to this question, I'd be interested in your view on this, Although the odds that he's watching this episode of our commentaries in particular are pretty slim.
Yeah. Remember, though, Mike Carlin was editor during the post-Byrne era when he was...
Yeah, but he was reading comics during that era. He would have had to think about this stuff still.
The person who would really be able to answer that question, since this is more of a Silver Age question, is probably the late, great E. Nelson Bridwell. Or even Bob Rozakis, the answer man.
Or just, anyone that wrote a significant number of Superman comics back in the day,
Yeah.
They did tend to keep people around on different titles like that. Well, let's face it, when it came to artists, let's face it, you had one person drawing Superman for what, 50 years?
It was like 35.
Yeah,
35.
Yeah, I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I mean, Kurt Swan. Can't say enough about Kurt Swan.
And you can't say enough about Tracy Roberts.
Although I will say, I mean, I'm not a fan of 80s hair. And that is a particularly massive amount of hair, even for Darla.
Well, we both know that it's a wig because in the scene when she's a nurse, she's got shorter hair.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure the wig looked like it was about to fall off just then as well. It looked like it slipped for a second. I do really like Darla. I mean, as far as Lex's sidekicks go, I know we do say how much we missed Leo in this show. We like that character a great deal. Out of the two, though, I think Darla is the better character. I just think Leo could have become a better character with a little more screen time, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Darla is so great.
Yeah. But I mean, Darla's great from her very first appearance in the show. Leo, we have a bit more affection for purely because we take all of his episodes in sort of together. If we were watching episode by episode, I'm not sure Leo has quite the same quality of introduction. Like Tracy Roberts, you know who Darla is from the very first episode she appears in. Like, she's basically fully formed.
Yeah. She's the typical, exotic dancer who's looking for a big break. And what does she say to Lex? I think my ship has come in.
Yeah. Looks like you just docked, yeah. And yeah, we've talked about this scene before. I think this training montage to get him back fighting is a good sequence. I could have done without the sound effects, though.
Yeah, it sounds more like he's doing an adult video.
Yeah. And the annoying thing is, you don't even really... I don't get why they even included sound effects, because it's clear they were trying to do like the, their take on the Rocky training montage type thing. But typically in those training montages, they cut all the audio from the video and just play the song. So cut all the audio of that training thing and just play Kevin Kiner's music behind it, and I think it would have actually improved the scene quite a bit. But then again, I guess hindsight's 2020.
Indeed, indeed.
But again, we've got another very funny Lex Luthor scene, and again, they're demonstrating that Lex is going to be very different this season, and where season 1 perhaps you didn't so much look forward to the Lex Luthor episodes, like now, yeah, I think audiences were probably excited every time they knew Sherman Howard was coming back. Well, I know I would have been if I was watching as it aired.
Most fans at this time knew who Sherman Howard was. I mean, he was Bub in Day of the Dead.
Yeah, Day of the Dead. He was the smart zombie that learns how to use a gun and a telephone and all of that, I think, if I remember right. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, though.
Great movie. And his performance is great in it.
And, he was always good when he appeared in Star Trek as well for the few guest stars appearances. I think he was in Voyager and Next Generation, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
DS9.
And DS9 as well. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a season 2 episode. He actually played a Vulcan. Which, seeing Sherman Howard with Vulcan ears is really, really odd.
I bet he'd be good as a Vulcan, though. He's got the right voice for it.
Oh, he was great.
I seriously doubt anybody connected with the Strange New Worlds or anything like that ever will watch one of our videos, but on the off chance they do, maybe get Sherman Howard for a guest role in Strange New Worlds Season 3. That'd be good. I'd like that.
Yeah, maybe get him for a Vulcan. He's got experience.
I think he'd be a pretty good Klingon as well, Because, there have been humorous Klingons in the past. Especially in TOS.
Mm-hmm.
I always remember the one that said the Enterprise is garbage. Oh, no, sorry. Should be hauled away as garbage.
The late, great Michael Pataki.
I love that scene. In both shows, that and Deep Space Nine, when they bring it back,
Okay, Tom, you're going to have to take control because I got to run to the restroom.
No worries. I'm just listening, Lex Luthor making a reference to Ironside as a TV show. I've not heard about that show in a very long time. I'm amazed that they haven't made a new version of that, You'd have to be a little bit more sensitive in the way that you portray Ironside in the new series, being a wheelchair user. But, I mean, he's the hero of that story, so I can't see why they wouldn't. And, we were talking about Superboy's intelligence earlier, and I realise Chris isn't here, so I'm just talking to you, the audience, at the moment. But, yeah, nice little demonstration there of Superboy's intelligence. Although, obviously, Lex doesn't think it will matter, but he doesn't know that Superboy's stronger than he's letting on at this point. The only thing with this scene, I really wish that the speed in which he was rotating in the wheelchair was just a little bit more consistent. Just always, I don't know, there's something very slightly off about it. Still, it was a good-looking shot considering the budget they had. Oh, poor Lana. Superboy could have just used the door, but there is precedent for Superman just breaking through a wall to save someone. George Reeves did it all the time. And I don't know if you could hear that, but let me pause my mic. Does make me laugh with this episode because there was a meme a few years ago that comic books in the Silver Age were the original clickbaiting rather, and often whatever you would see on the cover of a comic book had nothing to do with what was going on the inside. Famously, a lot of the old Silver Age DC comics with gorillas on the cover at no point actually featured a gorilla. They just realized that if they had a gorilla on the cover, for some reason, they sold twice as many issues. Because kids like monkeys, I guess. But, yeah. I like that the title for this episode is basically clickbait. Lex Luthor, sentenced to death, happens in the last minute of the episode, and he immediately escapes it. You know, it's a very clickbaity title, but it's right there from the comic books. Like it's very Silver Age, and I kind of love it for that. And away he goes. He's off to fight Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Part of me even thinks it's a shame that he says that it's going to wear off soon, because I kind of would have liked if the next Lex Luthor episode involved him still having those powers somehow. Or maybe, you know, the electricity's killing him somehow and Superboy has to save his life. Like, it would have been an interesting moral thing for Superboy, you know. Does he have to save the life of his greatest villain? That could have been fun. But yeah, I'm basically just spitballing now because I'm waiting for Chris to get back. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about this episode a little bit more. I mean, it's a good episode. I think that it does a lot more than season 1 does. I think the montage could have been better, just purely from a sound design perspective. But this is also the first episode that introduces Darla, and Darla is such a fantastic character. Like, it's in terms of, you know, as we said in this very commentary, you know, we miss Leo because we love that character. But Darla is the better character. I'm sorry, Michael, if you're watching. Darla is the better character. That's all right. Just yeah, the episode's ended. I was just saying, you know, Darla is the better character out of her and Leo. The montage probably drops my score for this episode down a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think this is a very good episode.
The montage itself is not bad. It's just adding in that overdubbed, you know,
it's just the sound design. Yeah.
Yeah.
If they remove all the audio from, you know, the stuff they filmed and just dub over the music, and it would be so much better. You know, if I had access to the actual sound recordings of the music, I'd have a go doing it myself, but, you know, they've never released it. I did email Kevin Kiner years ago asking if I could have copies of the audio files. I never got a response. I didn't expect one, though, to be fair.
Well, he probably didn't respond to you because
he's a very busy man, you know.
Well,
I mean,
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if, Warner Brothers had said, no, you're not releasing this. We're not releasing it.
Yeah, which is a shame. If they're not going to release it on an album or something, I don't see what the harm is about putting it onto YouTube or something,
Yeah.
It's probably not going to get listened to by very many people, but there are some of us that would absolutely listen to all of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe they when they did that DC 75th anniversary CD that they put out some years ago. I'm not sure if maybe they did include.
They did include the Superboy theme. It was the season 3 version, and it did include the voiceover, which I thought was a bit of a shame. Like, if I was going to put it on an album, I would have used the end credits version, which was exactly the same. It just didn't have the guy talking at the start. If you're going to make an album full of music, why not use that version? I never liked that. I'm glad Superboy at least got a mention, but it was obvious that it was an afterthought, because if you'd asked any Superboy fan, I'm pretty sure every one of us would have made that suggestion. Don't use the version with the voiceover, use the one without, because it's identical. It's just,
Yeah. Or even just release the season 2 sound, opening sequence.
But then if they did that, you probably would have had Andy screaming in the middle of it, which I would have loved. But, there's a lot of people that would have said they have to skip that track because that you can just hear
some random guy screaming.
Yeah. But there you go anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. Should we give this a quick score and then we'll leave it there? I would think this episode... I'm only going to give this a 7, this one. I think this is slightly worse than the one before it, but only just.
I was going to give it like a 7.25 on this. It's not quite as good as the first part, but it definitely is still up there.
Yeah, 7.25. That sounds fair to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sherman Howard's Lex really is. He's coming into his own in this episode. We've got Darla. And as you said, as much as we love you, Leo,
Darla is just a better character. She's more fully formed from the moment she's introduced, and she's entertaining from the moment she's introduced. They knew exactly what they wanted to do with that character, and they accomplished it. And I don't know if they necessarily ever quite figured out what Leo was supposed to be, even right up until the end. I'm pretty sure they still didn't really know what they wanted to do with that guy, which is probably part of why they killed him off, to be fair. It's a bit of a shame, but there you go. Just the way it happens, I guess. It is what it is. But, 7.25. I think that extra 0.25 there, I think it's worth it just because it's the introduction of Darla. So I think you're right. I think that's a fair score for this one. So, thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to tune in again next week. Don't know what the episode will actually be next week, but we'll see. We'll see when the time comes.
And this time I won't be running off to the bathroom.
I think it's just purely because my Wi-Fi's been bad. We rushed to get straight into the next episode because we don't know if it's going to go down again any second now. So... yeah, there wasn't a moment for the toilet break, but there you go. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Viacom.